Hello everybody, Briggsil here, doing another review for this week. I've got 4 other films that I've watched, and the first to begin is a film called Contagion. Now this was released earlier this year, 21st of October 2011, and it follows several different characters around a situation of a deadly disease that basically everyone gets, or 75% of the people in the world get, and it's basically about some of the doctors from the CDC, some of the people who they believe started or were the first infected, and generally it follows 3 or 4 different storylines throughout the film, although it's basically a big film with lots of really fine actors and actresses that actually play some of the characters in the film. For instance, the first character you'll come across is a character called Beth Emhoff, which is played by Gwyneth Paltrow, and she really starts it all off. She gets sick travelling back from Hong Kong, and they think it's some kind of flu to begin with, and then she dies. Basically, she dies. I'm not going to hide that from you folks. Anyone Gwyneth Paltrow fans out there, she does die. She's not then excluded from the whole film, but there are flashbacks about her past and how it started and all that sort of stuff. There's also quite a few other people. Matt Damon's in it as Gwyneth Paltrow's husband. You've got Lawrence Fishburne, who's one of the doctors from the CDC, and you've got Jude Law, who's like a blogger on the internet, and he kind of plays not a bad guy as such, but he kind of plays a character that's not very nice. He's really all he's doing is trying to make money from this massive disaster. There's also quite a few other people in it as well. We've got Kate Winslet's in it. There are obviously, as it was started in Hong Kong, they think, or in China somewhere, there's quite a few Chinese people as well. John Hawkes is in it, Griffin Kane, Josie Ho. Yeah, I don't know who that is, but generally it's quite there's a lot of people that you'll recognise. The guy out of Malcolm in the Middle, the dad, he's also in it. I can't remember his name, but generally the film has got a good rating in IMDb. It's 7 out of 10. It didn't really do that well in the cinema. Well, actually, tell a lie, it did all right. It just about made its budget, so it just about made enough money, which was I suppose it's deemed a success if it makes any money really, and it has done. But I'll give you a little synopsis here, just for you folks that don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Soon after her return from a business trip to Hong Kong, Beth Emhoff, Gwyneth Paltrow, dies from what is a flu or some other type of infection. Her young son dies a few days later. Her husband, Mitch, Matt Damon, however, seems immune to the disease. Thus begins the spread of a deadly infection for doctors and administrators in the US Centre of Disease Control, CDC. Several days pass before anyone realises what's going on. They must first identify the type of virus in question and then find a means of combating it. It's slightly political in its nature. It is very dramatic, and I wouldn't say it was a science fiction film, although that's what IMDb is saying it. I don't think it is. It's more of a dramatic. It's almost thriller-like, because there's millions and millions of people are getting killed by it. They are unfortunately getting killed by this virus, and it's quite moving, because it's not out of the realms of possibility. This could actually happen. You know, if because of the travel and because of the transportation that we have, the public transport, buses, planes, you know, taxis and cinemas and supermarkets and shopping centres and all that sort of stuff. There's so much opportunity to actually pick up people's germs. So this, you know, it can, in all honesty, be considered as quite prophetic. Is that even a word? I don't know. It could become a true story. It could, in all seriousness, become a true story. Because, you know, we don't know what's coming in the future. We don't know what sort of diseases or illnesses or viruses are going to come round the corner. And this, honestly, it's not scary, but it's eye-opening. The fact that, you know, what we do every day. Like, there's a stat in the film that says we touch our faces, you know, involuntarily. We just touch our faces 2,000 to 3,000 times a day, and that's just our faces. Imagine what else we touch when we go around our daily businesses. You know, when we go to the supermarket, when we go into work, you know, that sort of stuff. You know, you're touching things all the time. You're touching elevators and lifts and doors and various bits and pieces and tables and computers and all that sort of stuff. And imagine if there was a virus that was transmitted just by touch, we'd be in some serious shit. So, I really like this film. I really do like this film a lot. 7's a little low for my liking. I think it's more 7.5, even an 8. And I do recommend you go and see this if it's still in the cinemas now. It's actually in only one location in the country at the moment, so it's not really in cinemas. I'm sure it'll be out on DVD very, very soon, if it's not already out. I definitely recommend you go and see this because it is a fantastic film, and that's all I can really say about it. It's gritty. It feels realistic. It's slightly political, but not too much that it'll blow your minds if you don't like political stuff. And generally, I really, really enjoyed it. So that was Contagion. Came out earlier this year. I believe it is in the out on DVD. So go and rent it. If you like it, buy it. So the next film I watched was a film called Immortal, Ad Vitam. Now this is not to be confused with the recent Immortals film, you know, the one about the fighting and all that sort of stuff. This one is it's kind of a European film set in America. It's was made in Belgium, I believe, or it came out in Belgium first. So it's a bit European in nature. It's got a lot of European actors. You've got people like Charlotte Rampling, who's an English, or was it? I don't know if she's actually. She might be Australian, but yeah, she was English. Sorry. And Thomas Kretschmann. Who was, I believe he's German. Yeah, he's German. He was in things like King Kong and Wanted and Downfall. He was in Resident Evil Apocalypse. He's a really good actor, and I like him a lot in this film. Now, this film is a very underrated film as far as I'm concerned. It's very artistic. It's part live action, part animation. Mixed together. It's very independent as far as I'm concerned. It feels very indie based. It didn't do particularly well in the box office, but it does have a cult following of fans who absolutely adore this film. So I'm going to give you a bit of synopsis here. The movie is set in the year 2095. The main character is known as Jill. She isn't human when she was discovered by the doctor Elmer Turner, who was the Charlotte Rampling. she is diagnosed as being the most interesting genetic test subject that the doctor has ever come across. Her organs not in the right place, she has no memory, and she appears biologically to be only 3 months old. Now, the doctor basically gives the her test subject, the Jill character, a break. She gets her an identity card and a place to stay in exchange for being her guinea pig, basically, so she could do tests on, discover more about who she is. Now, this Thomas Kretschmann, who is his character is called Nicopol, is a frozen prisoner who is due to be released a year after the film is set, so to 2096. But there's a problem in the prisoner ward, and several are thrown down from the prison, which is it's like a mobile frozen prison basically in the sky. He loses his leg in the crash, and from there the story just gets incredibly strange. Now I'm talking really strange, and that's why I think a lot of people love it, because it is very strange. You know, there's a massive pyramid in the sky above, you know, the city, and you know, no one knows what it's all about. And it turns out there are these gods deciding whether or not to destroy the world or something. And basically, one of these gods tries to take control of Nicopol's body, and he just wants to have a look and see what's going on in the world in terms of you know, what's happening. I'm not really doing this film any justice, but I will just say this: it's very independent. You know, it looks very well done for such a small budget, such a small cast. The animation's not so fantastic. It was created in 2004, so the animation is a bit difficult to digest, I'd put it. You know, it may put people off, which is unfortunate, really. That's probably why it gets only 5.9 out of 10. But generally, I absolutely love this film. I watch it at least once a year. It's like Event Horizon for me. It's one of those films where you can't really go out you can't go without it for more than a year before you get a bit antsy and you actually want to hear it and see it again. So I do recommend you renting this. It has to be a rent though, folks, because if you were to buy it and then you hated it, I'd feel pretty guilty, because as I said, it's a very independent based film. It's very artistic, and it's very deep, would be a way to describe it. It's also quite confusing in places. You don't really know how things are going, what's going on, that sort of stuff. So I'd take it with a pinch of salt, really. If it doesn't sound like something that you'd watch, then obviously avoid it. But I'd give it more of a rating of 7. 7 out of 10 would be my rating. Next up, we've got the Inbetweeners movie. Now, this film came out early this year, the same sort of time as Contagion did, 17th of August 2011, or 2011, as I like to call it. Now, this film is actually really interesting, because I watched this film before I had ever watched the series of, the series, The Inbetweeners. And it didn't hurt. Like, some people say you have to watch the series before you watch the film, because you won't really know what's going on. Well, in this case, it doesn't matter. You can watch this film without knowing what the Inbetweeners are, and you'll still get a good idea of what's going on. I have since watching this movie actually watched the series as well, and it's just as good, if not better, the series. So this film, if you don't know anything about it, is it surrounds 4 socially troubled 18-year-olds from the south of England that go on holiday. Really, it's their summer before they're all, or some of them are off to university and they want to go on holiday. They want like a lads' holiday, and they go to Malia. And I have to say, it is really quite humorous. It's not always laugh out loud funny. It's more cringe comedy, as I like to call it. It's very, not that again, or he's doing this, or I can't look, because it's just so cringy. It's a very well made film. The characters are perfect in terms of what they're supposed to be doing. You've got the retard, who is Neil Sutherland, which is the tall fella, who seems to he doesn't really care what's going on at all. He just enjoys life. He hasn't really got a good brain, so he just goes with what he's got. You've got the liar, who just basically goes around making shit up to make himself look better in terms of getting women. You've got Simon Cooper, who is he's like not the failure of the group, but he's a loser, and he doesn't really know what he's doing, and he can't get over the fact that a girl has dumped him, and he's a bit sad. He's a bit unfortunate. He's probably one of the better looking of the group as well. And then you've got the main really character, which is Will Mackenzie, who is the geek. He's the nerd. He's the guy that has got a really posh accent. He's incredibly strange in terms of what he comes out with, and he's like the moral backbone of the group. He's the person that does his best to avoid getting into any horrible situations. He likes to be very sensible, and that alone makes him quite hilarious, because he does get into a couple of situations where he doesn't really know how to handle it, and he makes a mess of it. Now, someone who didn't really get enough of the scenes that he should have done is the teacher, Mr. Gilbert, who's played by the comedian Greg Davis. Now, he's quite prominent in the series. He's in probably 15 of the 18 episodes in the Inbetweeners series, and he does not get enough view, because he's one of the funniest comedians I've ever come across. I absolutely love him. I saw his live performance the other week, and he was really, really good. So, on a side note, Greg Davis, if you don't know who he is, he's a really lanky guy who plays Mr. Gilbert, the teacher, at the start of the film. He's also a comedian. I recommend you go and get whatever DVD he's put. I think it's throwing cheese balls at a cat or something, or at a dog or something. That's what it's called. So yeah, make up your mind. But generally, the film has got a really good review on IMDb, a 7.8 out of 10 for the ratings. I personally wouldn't give it as much as that myself, because cringe comedy is not my I don't enjoy cringe comedy and enough to give it anywhere near that. So I'd probably give it 6.5 to a 7. I'd give it 7 at best, I think, for the Inbetweeners movie. But generally, as I said before, if you've seen the series and you've not seen the film yet, then it's a must-buy. It has to be a must-buy, because it is just as good as the series. They get into all stupid situations. It's funny. It's cringe-worthy, like it was in the series. So I definitely recommend you buying that. If you've never seen the film or the series before, then it's a rent, obviously. You want to make sure to check it out. And if you obviously like it, you can go back and watch the series, because obviously you've got 18 episodes, which is more than enough to keep you going. So that was the Inbetweeners movie. Now, the last film I want to tell you about is a film called Kung Pao Enter the Fist. Now, you're thinking, martial arts, interesting. It's a take piss of a martial arts film. Came out in 2002, 25th of January 2002. It's got a pretty mediocre rating of 5.8 out of 10. Its director is Steve Odekirk, and it's also stars Steve Odekirk, and the writer is Steve Odekirk, and it's pretty much Steve Odekirk. He's like a white guy, American white guy who really, the whole job of the film is to take piss out of martial arts and the dubbing and the fighting and stuff. Because what he's done is he's taken footage from an old or several old martial arts films, and he puts himself into it. He makes scenes around these films. He uses them as the guideline for the film, and he just makes it silly. And it is silly. I am going to say this now. It's a very, very silly film, but it's an absolute classic. All you want to do is sit down and have a laugh. It's fantastic. I love it to bits. My best friend and I used to watch this every other month, literally, because it was hilarious. We used to love watching it. So I do recommend this to you. Now, all it is really is about Steve Odekirk. His character is a guy who, classed as the chosen one, sets off to avenge the death of his parents at the hands of kung fu legend Master Pain. Yeah, okay. That's all you need to know, really. It's just a fantastic film, and I recommend it to you completely. And I'm going to make this a very quick review because it is purely an easy film to talk about. It is funny. It's got a little bit of action. It's cheesy as fuck, and generally a very enjoyable film. So I recommend renting this if you can. If not, you probably find it in a bargain bin somewhere in Blockbusters or in a supermarket somewhere, or even online. You probably find it for stupidly cheap. I'd personally give it more than a 5.8. I'd give it a 6.5 probably out of 10. That's purely because I love it so much. But generally, that was Kung Pao Enter the Fist, and it's a good film. I recommend watching it or buying it. So, that was it for the review this week. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope I've given you guys and gals some idea of what films are doing well these days, and generally what I like about them. So, I'll see you next week.